Hi, everyone. I'm Hillary Topper here for We Are Triathletes. And I'm very excited because I've met Manji Hosang a couple of months ago at a USA triathlon training camp. And I was really, really impressed by him. And he is an endurance coach, but he's also a strength coach and conditioning expert. And he's got a company called Mindful Endurance, and they're located in Virginia. And without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to Manji, who will tell you a little bit about his background before starting the presentation.
And thanks, Hillary. First of all, thanks for having me. My name is Manji Hosang, born and raised in Colorado. Grew up playing every sport imaginable. I was kind of a latchkey kid, so everything from football to baseball, soccer, ice hockey, even caught up with growing up ski racing up on the snow. That's Colorado, what else to expect? So did that through high school. At the end of high school, picked kind of, I guess, the passing of resistance, started playing college football, and kind of found out it wasn't for me and ended up joining the Navy. Long story short, 23 years later, had an awesome career, but it was during a time where I had an instructor duty assignment, instructing helicopter rescue swimmers, which was my job title, that I really found kind of my love for coaching and helping other people improve their performance. So that got me back in school, got some great mentors to go along. So once I retired, I entered the world of strength conditioning with both feet. Through that whole time, for about 15 years, I was in and out of triathlons as my schedule would allow me to. So the next logical step is just to become a triathlon coach or an endurance sport coach. A, I was doing it. So B, I taken the two, merged the strength conditioning aspect with the triathlon and endurance aspect to kind of start something new, start a second career.
Okay, well, that's great. Thank you so much. So I guess you could start the presentation now.
Okay, great. Let me pull this thing up here. I know I had it. Sorry. All right, there we go. Okay, so what I'm going to talk about today is weight training for triathlon, triathlete, as well as endurance sports, which is an important concept in itself, and I'll kind of review why. Again, real quick background about myself. I have my degree in sports and health science. I specialized in athletic performance. On top of that, I'm credentialed by the National Strength Conditioning Association. I'm a certified strength and conditioning specialist. I'm also certified through USA Weightlifting as a sports performance coach. As Hillary said, we met down in Florida. I'm a USA Triathlon Level 1 coach. I work with functional movement systems. I am a functional movement specialist, and I'll kind of get into that and why I think that's super important, especially for athletes. I'm also a certified speed and agility coach and a TRX coach. Like I said, I've been in and out of triathlon for about 20 years, and last year kind of cracked my shell into the trail running. Spent my 48th birthday running 50K trail race. So again, a lot of moving parts, but I think the strength and conditioning aspect is important, especially for the older athletes, and that's kind of what I'll point out at. Weight training for triathletes, again, and endurance runners. The goals of weight training, what we want to do is you're looking to increase your muscular strength. What that will do is help improve your body composition as well as your lean body mass, which is something we're all looking to do. Will improve your power and your muscular endurance. What that does during a race is that'll help you reduce or to delay the amount of neuromuscular fatigue, improve your exercise economy. So that's delayed onset of lactate, improving your lactate threshold, improving your aerobic capacity and your anaerobic capacity, which means you're going to race faster. And the big thing is reduce the incident of injuries. throughout the season, triathlon season, running season is a long season. And although I think most age group athletes don't race every 2 or 3 weeks, and if you are, that's something to kind of look at your schedule. What I usually encourage people is kind of take a look at your favorite pro schedule. And you'll see they space their races out. And that's because we want to reduce injury and give the body time to heal. But strength training will do that, and that'll allow you to compete for many years to come. And on the bottom, when we talk about age and strength training, I lucked out. I happened to be in Colorado a week before this young lady, Didi Geisbauer, headed over to Florida. And if you're not aware, she competed in the Ultraman Triathlon down in Florida at 49 years young. Not only did she complete the race, she was second overall. And I'll tell you, going into day 3, she was actually leading the race. There's her finishing time, and she ended up breaking the women's world record by over an hour. And one big thing she hit on as I sat in a little round table with her, and of course the question came up, Didi, how do you race so long? She's the oldest card-carrying pro, and she said strength training. And when she said strength training, she said that includes lifting heavy weights. Which brings me to my next thing, and I get this a lot, is why should I strength train? I don't want to be big and bulky and get all muscular. And I tell people, no offense, but when you see people this big, they have spent an exuberant amount of time in the weight room. So the time we spend running, swimming, and biking, and doing some cross-training activities, people of this size just lift and they monitor their nutrition. So I tell everybody, hey, everybody responds to strength training differently. So don't worry about getting big and bulky. If that's some things you see, then you adjust. And then 2, one thing I'll talk about later is the individual repetitions and the set ratio vary for everybody. So one thing I find, a lot of people just run to their favorite magazine or their favorite Instagram and go, oh, well, they're doing this workout. That's what I want to do to look like that. And I tell people, not necessarily. Different things work for different people, which is why I encourage people to find some coaching to get that done, which is our next big thing, is seek out the professionals. Strength training, the first thing is we want to, as strength coaches, is to avoid injury and make your performance better and be able to last longer. So I encourage everybody, it doesn't have to be a full year commitment. Most people, I'll tell you, even as a strength coach, I like to see you 4 to 6 weeks, and hopefully I can give you enough material to where you can go on, progress, and become your own strength guide. And then every 4 or 5 months, when you're kind of running out of ideas, come back, let's work together for 2 or 3 weeks and we'll go again. So like I say, seek out the professionals. Before any program, most of us are already training. Good time to seek out guidance from your doctor and your physical therapist. And I say that because you can reestablish your mobility. And I'm going to talk about mobility here in a minute. Another great thing to do is I started doing it about 3 years ago is I get with my doctor and I run a metabolic blood profile. So let's see how the systems are working. Again, especially as you get older, your metabolic system is going to change. How is your nutrition? What is that doing? So it's a good time to kind of see that pre-season, and then I go back post-season and see what's going on. That also allows you to track your weight gain, your nutrition, your body composition. Are you doing the right things? You can play trial and error all you want, but go for the science. Like I tell my clients, science doesn't lie, and it's a good system to work with. And lastly is, again, I encourage people, find out and seek out a professional credentialed performance coach or sports trainer. There are many different certifications that you can get. Some are better than others. Unfortunately, in the world of money talks, there are some personal training certs that you can sit at your computer over the weekend, take a couple tests, print your certificate out, and walk down the street and claim, hey, I'm a personal trainer, let me train you. Doesn't mean you have the background or the knowledge to get that done safely. So what I always say is find a credentialed coach, someone with the background, someone with the education to help you on your journey. All right, the big thing, and I'll talk about mobility, and this is from somebody who I really admire. His name is Greg Cook. He came up with the functional movement system, and his motto is first move well and then move often. And specifically for triathletes, some things I've seen in the pool as I help people is mobility. Are you mobile enough to do the sports that you want to do, the motion that's required? And swimming, a big one is shoulder. You'd be surprised. A lot of people don't have the shoulder mobility to, compete at a high level. And then is to move often. So once you get the mobility, then you'll be able to move very well. So you may show up and your shoulder mobility may not be very good, but when you work with professionals, that will improve. And the first thing I point out, and it's a little different, I basically don't, there's different systems, but what I go with is the functional movement system, or the FMF screen. Quick background, it was formed in '97. Greg Cook formed it. Not only was he a physical therapist, but he was also a strength and conditioning coach. And his big scope of performance was the injury risk management of active individuals. How can sports performance coaches and strength coaches stop the cycle of sending athletes to physical therapists because they're injured? Once they're healed from the physical therapist, how can we as strength coaches and sports performance coaches keep them from going back in there? And so what he devised is a simple test, just fundamental movements that go over your motor control, your movement pattern, and there are no skill involved. And a quick review is there's 7 movements, and I encourage everybody before you hit the gym is find a physical therapy clinic or a qualified sports performance coach to run you through these 7 movements. And what we'll be able to do is see your basic mobility patterns. The test is going to put you in what we call positions of weakness or imbalances. We want to see where you're weak. That way we can work on the deficiencies to make them better. And overall performance, your movement ability will improve, your efficiency, which we all love to hear. If you're training by numbers, power, 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 watch that power go up. Quick review of the movements. We're just going to run you through a deep squat, hurdle step, an inline lunge. And if you think about it, these are all patterns that go into movements, and we're looking like we're having a little problem here. What can we do here? Luckily, I've got it out here. Patterns. After that, we're going to review shoulder mobility, active straight leg raise, trunk stability push-up, which will emphasize core strength. And when we deal with core strength and we're swimming, we know that is super important. And rotary stability patterns. Okay, so I'm going to keep rolling. I'll retry to load this, Hillary, and we'll see what we get.
Yeah, I was going to say maybe we should just go into just FaceTime over here.
Okay, so when we talk about triathlete weight training, again, what I encourage people to do is seek out the credentialed professionals. What I have is there's a list. Trainers are some ones that are well known, or ACE trainers, or the American Council on Exercise, NASM, American Council on Sports Academy and Sports Medicine, International Sports Association, as well as the National Strength and Conditioning Association. And that's where, again, I belong. And the biggest thing about those accreditations are you have to complete annual training. And annual training includes CPR, in conferences. That way you understand that the coach that you're utilizing is up to date with everything that's going on scientifically. That way they can give you the most up-to-date, comprehensive knowledge, science backed, when they're working with weight training. So a lot of things, just like we learned in our triathlon class, are cycles, and we all run through cycles of training, just like runners do, just like triathletes do. We have kind of that base build, that intro build. And then we go into our strength phase, our endurance phase, and all of a sudden we're in season. So weight training is the exact same way. First couple weeks in the gym is kind of your intro. So working with a coach, we're going to look to improve the mobility patterns that we see. You're going to learn the movements, learn the weightlifting movements, and what I call master the techniques. Brilliant on the basics. Form is important. That way we hit that number one goal of avoiding injury. After that, you go into 3 to 5 weeks of what we call strength training phase. Some coaches split this into two. I'm one of them. So the first phase of strength training, which will go over improving your mobility. You're going to continue to master the technique, and then we're going to do what's called progressive loading. So what I'm going to have you do is we're going to do the lifts now. You're going to load the weight slowly. I do a system that's called 5 sets of 5 reps. So you're going to get 25 reps of this one exercise. That way you're learning. And these are basically primary exercises, primary movements, again, under the watchful eye of a certified sports performance and strength coach will allow you to master the form. Mastering form is the key to avoiding injuries. After that phase, we'll go into a second strength phase. This usually occurs for triathletes right after that base building phase. So again, we're going 2 to 4 weeks. Now you understand how much weight you can lift depending on the movement. And so we'll do a system, what's called your working weight. And this is the biggest time to develop that neurological system because you're going to be lifting heavy weights. Okay, so this is the time where you're going to look for those FTP numbers on your bike to start shooting up. And this is the result of that. After that phase, you have what's the endurance phase. For triathletes, it's pretty much the preseason phase. You're going to stay in the gym. Your time in the gym is probably going to go from 45 minutes to an hour, probably about down to 30 minutes. And in that 30-minute time frame, because you've mastered those lifts, you're going to just drop some of the weight. That's when we're going to increase the repetitions and just keep that movement going. This is important during the endurance phase because that's when everybody also tends to up their miles. This is the part of the season where you're looking and you're, 60 to 90 days out and those miles are going up. So your body composition at that time is also going to just start improving. You're going to start, as we say, losing that kind of winter weight, shedding that extra layer we got during the holidays and get to that what some people label as that race weight and be able to maintain it. And that's important. Again, like I said when we started, is everybody thinks, oh, I don't want to get big and bulky because I'm lifting weights. This is going to avoid that. This is how that doesn't happen. After that, depending on your schedule, you'll go into the in season phase. And again, that's kind of where we're kind of a maintenance cycle. Again, maybe 1-2 days a week in the gym, just doing, the lifts, just doing those lifts, low reps, high weights, and it's really time efficient. So we know the majority of your time is swim, bike, run, but that extra day where you're not swimming, biking, and running, you're in the gym. Basic lifts. A lot of people see these. I kind of put a chart up. Basic lifts for swimming include some from squats because that helps with the core strength and leg strength, lateral shoulder raises, tricep press, dumbbell bench rows, lat pull downs, half kneeling overhead dumbbell press. And the big thing here is we want to develop shoulder stability, okay, because that's the number one thing for swimmers. I train our local swim team, and during their preseason, we actually lift very heavy on the shoulders. And during the season is we really work on shoulder stability. I'm a big fan of University of Florida Swimming, and their coach down there, Matt Delancey, has got numerous Olympians under him, and he has his swimmers lift like bodybuilders and power lifters, but he is adamant shoulder stability is the key. Not every swimmer has sore shoulders, and that's because they keep them strong. Moving to the bike phase, good thing about bike, again, you can move dumbbell squats, barbell squats. There's many variants. That is the advantage of using a coach. If barbell squats, some people don't like them because they hurt. There's a variant we can use on a dumbbell. Just hold 2 dumbbells and do it that way. Deadlifts, whether you use a hex bar, trap bar, or a regular straight bar. I like to do a bench press, but I usually put my athletes on the floor so we can avoid overtaxing the shoulder so we can get a straight pressing movement. When you stop and think, there's not too many pressing movements per se that we do in triathlon or as runners. But what that does is increase your upper body strength and your core strength. So when we are running, you'll be able to hold upright. If you look kind of towards the back of the pack, or the people who didn't take their training so seriously, or runners, they start to get that slump over. There's numerous videos where you see the end, those last finishers are all hunched over, looking like they're about to do a bear crawl. And that's just the lack of strength from the core and the hip flexor. So yeah, we've all seen it. And core work, we work on anti-rotation. There's two types. There's rotational core work and anti-rotational core work. Again, there's a huge difference between sit-ups and what we'll call ab twists or Russian twists, but we want to work both because there's two sets of muscles that help keep us upright and tall. And then basic lifts for runners. Again, we're back to the squat, dumbbell lunges, which again, copycat a lot of the movements as far as the quads, the hamstrings, the glutes, the hip flexors, maintaining strength in your core, lateral leg raises, hip lifts or glute bridges, and then big time with the core work. Once you master those through a season, that can last a lifetime. I tell people, when you have a good coach, 4 to 6 weeks working with that coach will change your life. I actually still set the bar up for my bench press the way I was taught in high school, and that's because my high school PE coach was actually an active power lifter. So I feel fortunate that when I learned to lift weights, I learned from a top nationally ranked power lifter, and it turns out that what he taught me back in the early 80s still works today, and that's how it goes. Once you're done with that, people go, well, what do I do, after that? Working with a coach, again, like I tell people, bounce back and forth. If you have 3-month block off before your next race, maybe you'll go into a short 2-week strength phase again, and then drop back into your endurance phase and your race phase. Some people like myself, once you get to a point, you're like, oh, this is fun, I want more. There's advanced lifting movements, and those really, you'll see some people move to CrossFit or do basically Olympic lifts, which are great. They're total body lifts. They help coordination. They help overall strength, which is just a bonus when you're on the race course. And again, the overall goals of weight training is we want to reduce injuries while training. Being able to have that external load the skeleton makes your race longer. The longer you race, helps your endurance. It actually helps the body's ability to maintain that stress. I mean, we're racing 4, 5, some people 6 hours. So you want to have that endurance and know that your body can hold out. Again, when you're looking for a strength coach, find a professional. Go to most gyms, whether big box gym or even places like the YMCA. Their personal trainers or their fitness coaches do have to go through some sort of credentialing, and they do keep them up on current continuing education. So whether that's in your wheelhouse or to go to a sports performance center, if there's some in your area, again, that's another great option. A lot of sports performance coaches, even trainers, remember, we're athletes, so we understand what's going on. So if you can find one who A, is a runner, or B, has done a triathlon, or is a current active triathlete, that's probably the best coach you can find, because they know how you're feeling, they know your schedule, they know what's going on. And the last big thing I tell people, interview your strength coach or your personal trainer. They're going to sit down and ask you, what do you need? How can I help you? You need to look at them and say, this is what I want to do. How are you going to get me there? What is your background? Have you ever done a triathlon before? And I think that's key. If you have a strength coach that doesn't know the concept of swim, bike, run, they may not be the best coach. And I'll tell you, that's not a knock. A good strength coach hopefully will go, you know what, I haven't, but I'm going to go try it and get back to me. Or some will point you to their subject matter expert in their facility and say, hey, here you go. So that's pretty much it with that part.
So I'm going to open this up to questions. And I have a bunch of questions of my own.
Okay.
A couple of things. So, you know, first off, what are some of the top exercises that you could recommend us doing? Um, that you could recommend us doing as runners or triathletes?
So I think to put the top exercises in a list, one I would say is some sort of squat. Okay, whether it's a barbell squat on your back, barbell squat up front, or using dumbbells to hold them on the side of your shoulders to do the squat. A squat, number one, go to. It helps your quads, your hamstrings, your glutes balance, and it also goes over core strength. After that, I would go to a lunge, whether it's an isometric lunge with no weight, but a simple lunge step forward and backwards. Again, we're copycatting some movements with the hip flexors as well as keeping your core upright. And we're going left, right. We don't run 2 foot, we don't bounce, so we go, bilateral movement. After that, I would move to a pressing movement. Again, I like to do dumbbell presses, particularly from the floor. That way my elbows don't go past 90 degrees, so I'm just pushing straight up. And then a pull or a row, some type of row, whether it's a cable rowing machine or even a TRX set to do a row with your body weight as the resistance. But those are the big 3 main: a squat, a press, and a row.
Okay. Do you want to ask the question? I don't hear you. I don't know. It's oh.
Okay, is that better?
Yeah, that's
There
it.
she is.
Okay, hi.
Hey.
Thanks for today. I really appreciate it. I've been following along and taking some notes, and delighted to hear that pretty much everything you've said is exactly what I've been doing.
Awesome.
We've hit a little bit of a snafu. I'm out here in Seattle. We're the epicenter for the COVID virus. Most of us are staying away from the gym, even though I probably work out in one of the cleanest gyms in Washington State. It's a pro club in Bellevue. They have excellent air filtration, all that, but I have a compromised immune system, so it's been recommended for me to stay away. Right. So I am currently in my art loft. I don't have any weights other than I happen to have bought years ago a Pilates reformer. I know not everybody has one of those in their homes, but it's excellent for generating some weight stuff. I have a stability ball. I have yoga mats. I have some tubing. What are some clever hacks to work out at home to represent some of these things if you didn't have a weight rack, if you didn't have any dumbbells?
So tubing is in the rubber bands, the elastic bands?
I have both the elastic bands that you can put around your legs for some of the functional movements and that I do to stretch my hips, but I also have the tubing with handles. Okay. So you can get some resistance off of that. So you can do like bicep curls and stuff. You can wrap it around a doorknob or some other thing. So
that tubing is probably going to be your go-to. And what you can do with that type of tubing, we'll say bicep curls, you can stand on that tubing and have your handles in each hand and do your bicep curls. And there may become a point where you go, I need more resistance. And that's what I'll recommend is now wrap that tubing maybe around a door handle and take a couple extra steps back, which will increase the resistance to do that. You can also do squats like that. That's an excellent way to do squats, is stand on that tubing just like you're going to do bicep curls, but then you're going to turn your hands and you're going to put them up to your shoulders. So now we have some resistance as you're doing squats. When that gets a little too easy, put those hands above your head and then do your squat. So you can slowly increase the resistance with that tubing. That tubing is incredible to use. The other thing for in your situation is yes, that Pilates reformer. Wish I had one. Those are awesome pieces of equipment. A, to maintain your mobility, and B, with not a lot of weights, if you are stuck at home, is A, just doing the movement. And of course, with just isometrics, you're just going to increase your repetition. So maybe do 5 sets instead of doing 5 sets of 8 at the gym. You're going to do 5 sets of 15, and then lower your rest time. And that'll get that heart rate pumping. And soon by set 3, you're going to see that sweat start to drip, and you'll really get a workout. Because your body weight ultimately is the resistance, and that's what we carry around as our weight.
So Ray has a question, and his question was, for triathletes, what percentage of time should be devoted to strength training each week? And on top of that, I want to add, when I've heard that when you're in full season, you shouldn't really be strength training. Is that true? So there's two questions there.
Yeah. Time. So time strength training for an active triathlete would probably be 2 days a week, 45 minutes to an hour. And I say that because that's effectively using your time in the gym, doing movements. That includes your warm-up. Okay, so 10-15-minute warm-up. You're going to do 6, no more than 8 lifts during that session, with a bit of a cool down depending on what you have after the gym, whether it's go to work. Okay, I tell people, if my morning clients, you're headed to work, we'll slow down the tempo towards the end, but I want you to take a shower and go. I don't want to per se cool your body and slow it down, because you got a full day ahead of you. We got that metabolic system running. Let's keep it running. Second question, lift during the season. I don't know why runners and triathletes tend to think that way. And I think it goes back to, I don't want to feel big and bulky. Well, again, that's being very cognizant of the set rep ratio, 1. 2, your load is, you're not going to lift a whole lot of big heavy load. So you're still going to be under some stress. And then B, it's injury prevention. It's going to keep you strong. It's going to keep your tendons and your ligaments tight, as well as allow you to continue to improve with your power production. And I just point, having coached football, I point to other sports, and football is one of them, is during season, our lifting, we lifted twice a week. Our sessions just came down to about an hour and a half, and our weight ratios dropped. But I'll tell you, new studies now are showing there's some sports teams that are actually doing heavy lifts pre-game. And I know a couple athletes who are lifting the night before to get that body going. So your lifting, I don't think, is the problem. It's the method of how you're lifting and the weights you're lifting that I think start to trip people up.
Well, I think that a lot of people say that you shouldn't do it because you get sore from lifting. I mean, so how do you what's the answer to that?
The soreness comes from the adaptation of what you do is create micro tears in the muscle, and that deals with the amount of load that you're lifting. So 2 weeks before, starting 2 weeks before, be smart. Remember, we talked about that endurance phase, lighten the load. So you're more or less just moving external loads, which is a little heavier than your body weight, in a comfortable pattern that you've mastered. And there's no soreness there. You should be no more sore lifting during that phase than you are after a 3-hour bike ride.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Anybody else have any questions? Oh, Ray has a question. Can you strength train every day if you do short sessions?
No, and I really point away from strength training every day because your off days are your recovery days, and your recovery days are the day that you gain the most. The gains are made on the recovery, not during the workout. So I would steer away from every day. Like I said, if you're really froggy and gung-ho, 3 days a week, but just be smart about it and know that you incorporate that with your other sport training activities. So if you have a hard bike or run day and you're still lifting that day, that it's a light day. And if you have a short run or a light run, feel free to lift heavy. And I would almost lift before the run, and that way you can work out some of that lactate that's going to build up.
That's a good idea. Manjai, so do you train remotely?
I do. Got our mindful endurance website set up, and I tend to train. I do use one of the online training programs to track the athletes that I have. And I think a big thing that I've learned is communication. I know some people shy away. Well, I'm in one state, my coach is in the other. One thing I pride myself on is within 6 hours of a workout, I'm looking at the workout, I'm analyzing what's going on and providing feedback. Because of course, that's what a coach is there for, to provide you feedback on your performance for that day and how to improve for your next training session.
Absolutely. Thank you. Anybody else have any other questions? If you do, you can undo your mic or write in the chat. All right, I guess it doesn't look like anybody has any other questions. Well, with that, why don't you provide us with your information? So if anybody needs to get in touch with you, they can.
Yeah, sure. I can be reached various ways. The easiest is my email is mindfulendurancecoaching@gmail.com. I'm also on Instagram as mindful_endurance. And then I've opened up the phone number. I have plenty of clients who called. So I can be reached via text or phone call, which is awesome. And that is 757-286-6490.
Thank you, Manjai. I really appreciate your time today. This was really informative, clarified a lot of different misconceptions that are out there, and also provided us with some guidance as to what to do. So thank you. And this was awesome. So
Awesome.
have a great day. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Thank you very much.